Welcome to Teaching Truth. From the palace of Egypt to the plains of Midian. That's the journey which Moses has taken. And that's the journey that we have taken with Moses in our reflections this week. We have taken that journey from the palace where he received a fine foundation, a fine education in the University of Egypt. As a result of his killing an Egyptian, he has decided and had to flee to Midian. In that moment, and against the backdrop of what he's done, he has considered himself a failure, and he's fearful. He's fearful of what Pharaoh might well do to him. And so Moses finds himself in the land of Midian. And that's where we pick up the story today. And the focus for our reflection today is on the flock which Moses had. Let's read the Bible together from Exodus chapter 2, verse 15. Moses went to live in Midian, where he sat down by a well. Now a priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came to draw water and fill the troughs to water their father's flock. Some shepherds came along and drove them away, but Moses got up and came to their rescue and watered their flock. When the girls returned to Reuel, their father, he asked them, "Why have you returned so early today?" They answered, "An Egyptian rescued us from the shepherds. He even drew water for us and watered the flock." Moses is in Midian. He's sitting by a well, and in essence he fetches water for these girls, for their flock. Moses stood up and saved them and watered their flock. Now, why is that significant? Well, for the next 40 years, Moses was going to be a shepherd in Midian. And not only that, but beyond those 40 years, Moses was going to be, as it were, a leader, a pastor shepherd, pastoring, as it were, leading the flock of God rather than a flock of sheep. And so even in these moments by the well, through what Moses is doing, helping to water the flock, in essence, the Lord is bringing Moses up, preparing him for his future role, not just as a shepherd tending sheep, but actually as a shepherd leading people. Many of us have heard the term, and perhaps have used the term, a wolf in sheep's clothing. And what that means is that any wise leader will always protect those who they have responsibility for leading, and will also be discerning and wise in respect of who is allowed the access to the flock. We just need to go to John 10, that great passage on Jesus being the good shepherd, to read of the fact that the good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. The hired hand is not the shepherd who owns the sheep, so that when he sees the wolf coming, he abandons the sheep and runs away. No, the good shepherd provides nourishment, water for the flock. And so what Moses was doing for the girls at the well was, as it were, putting his bucket into the well and providing water for the flock. Water for the flock. The evidence of whether a leader or a pastor is a true leader or a true pastor is the degree to which they nourish and feed and water their flock. And how do they do that? Well, by preaching and teaching the word, nourishing the flock, but by also caring for the flock, but by their pastoral care and by their interest as a leader. If you ever knock those that you aspire to lead, you will never lead them. Watering the flock is the mark of a good and a godly leader. And so what are we saying here? What we are saying is this: that Moses, yes, was to be a shepherd looking after sheep in Midian, one of the most humbling roles that you could ever have or ever ask for. But beyond that, Moses was going to be a leader, a pastoral leader of many, many people who would be responsible for leading and for watering the flock of God. If you're a pastor today, if you're a leader, maybe whatever role you have within the church, if you're responsible for pastoring or leading people, part of your role is to water the flock, to lead them to good pasture, and to ensure that they are well fed. And Moses was a leader like that. Moses ensured that these girls were given water in order that the sheep had water to drink. Moses watered the flock, and Moses would go on to water the flock and to lead a greater flock of God. Moses is in Midian. He's in the desert as a shepherd. And that's where we pick up the story on Monday in Teaching Truth, as Moses has an exciting and a challenging and a life-changing encounter at a burning bush. Make sure you connect back into Teaching Truth next week as we unpack the story, the account of Moses at the burning bush, as we journey with Moses from the cradle to the grave.